Hello everyone, this is Vishnu Satya and today we are going to learn about how to make a to-do list with closure, callback and promises. As for the closure, here is the code of example and whereas for the closure, a closure in a JavaScript is a function that retains access to its outer scope even after the outer function has finished execution. Closures allow you to uh, encapsulate variables and functions within scope and persist that state across function calls. In a simpler terms, a closure is created when a function remembers the variables in its outer scope, even if the outer function has already written. As for the outer function creates a local variable that is private to its scope. And create how can we create a closure? By we can call an outer function. It returns the inner function. At this point, a closure is formed because inner function remembers the variable count in its outer scope, even though outer function has already finished execution. And whereas the how the closure is being used as every time you call closure, it has to access the count variable in the scope of outer function. Even the outer function has returned, the inner function retains the access to the count variable through the closure. Here is an example program of the closure where we created an create counter function, and in create counter function we have created an inner function called we have created another function which returns the outer function. This is how the closure works overall. And as for the callback function, we will see the code of callback function. This is the example code of callback function, where a callback is a function that passes an argument to another function and it is executed after some operation is completed. Callbacks are often used for an asynchronous programming, such as reading files, making API calls, or handling events in JavaScript. And whereas the important topics in the callback function are passing function as an argument. A function can accept another function as a parameter and execute it inside. Used and another one is used in asynchronous operations. And callbacks are particularly useful in asynchronous like timers, event listeners, and API requests, where the tasks happen asynchronously. And here is the small code of callback function where JavaScript code includes function perform task, where the parameters only we have taken another function called task name, and this is how the callback function is being explained. And after this, uh, the callback ensures that an additional action is executed after the main task. Callbacks help in defining what should happen next in an organized way. And we will see about the promises. Here is the promises code where we will see the promises represent a value that may be available now or in the future or never. It is used to handle asynchronous operations like API calls or timers. In promises, we are going to use an await and async operations. In async function that returns a promises, await is used to inside an async function to wait for a promise to resolve or reject. Example of async or await is given here, where we will see in an example code shortly. And here we will see the working of the working of the operations which are used in promises like fetch data. This function requires a promise that resolves after 2 seconds. As for the get data, this is an async function that uses await to wait for fetch data to resolve and then logs the result. This approach helps to write asynchronous code in more readable and asynchronous like manner. And we will see about how these callbacks, closures, and overall three functions of callback, closure, and promises used in to-do list. And we will just shortly open to-do list function. This is the code of to-do list where we included both callback promises and as well as closure. And we'll see and let us break down this code. And the first main function that defines the to-do list system. Here, all is an array that holds all to-do items. It is not accessible directly outside the to-do list function. Inner functions, functions like add, mark as complete, overdue, etc., interact with the all arrays. These functions form a closure and retain access to the all arrays. Here, the closure concept is being used where the functions like add, mark as complete, overdue interact with the all array. Whereas for the functions inside the to-do list like add, where the add function makes a new task to all the array and adds into the to-do items. And push is used also in add function. We will use push, as push is an operator where every item is being added to the particular to do item. And after this, mark as completed is another function where mark as task, where it performs a marks a task at the given indexes in all area as a complete JavaScript. Whereas for the under function overdue, filter task in whose due date is earlier than the today and have not been completed. Here we'll make use of all dot filter, where filter will filters the task which is been overdue, and after that due today is another function where we can filter the uh, dates which have been uh, which have not been done, we'll get all those under the due date. And whereas for the due later, filter task in all that are due after today. And return for this, we will also use return all dot filter items. And after that, to displayable list, we'll use an function and format a list of functions into a displayable string. Ads will follow a certain pattern called square braces. In if we complete the task of something in to-do list, we will mark an into in a square braces. After that includes the due dates, unless the task is due today. For this, we are going to use a checkbox in JavaScript. If checkbox is completed, we are going to remove the into mark in square braces. After this, creating an instance to a to-do list. The function called to create an instance of the to-do list. The to-do objects have access to the inner functions, whereas like add, mark as complete, overdue, etc., to interact with all the arrays. And here we are using an helper function called formatted data. It helps to format a data object into a string of the form year, month, and date. JavaScript. After this, dates yesterday, today, and tomorrow will also be displayed in the formatted like today. If today is returned, then we'll use a formatted date and new date. If yesterday, we'll use a formatted date, due date, and we'll set the date of yesterday. And for the tomorrow, we will also set the date of tomorrow plus one. For yesterday, we will use date today dot get date minus one. For as for the tomorrow, plus one will be issued. And after this, adding task will be used in adding tasks. Tasks are added to the to-do list using the add method. And all displaying tasks, the tasks are originally organized into three categories and displayed. Overdue tasks and task due today and the task due later will also be used in this. Now we will see the output of this code and where these all the functions which have been executed till now, and we will see how this code will run. See, as for the output, we are getting my to-do list as an header of the output. After this, we categorize this in three formats like overdue, due today, and due later day. And here, as for the overdue, we practice the coding exercises, and we kept a task as organized study material, plan group study sessions, and update class notes. And these are all things, and which have been done. We removed the into marking and curly braces. If it is not done, we keep the into mark in the curly braces. This is how the to do with implementing closure, callback, and promises have been done. And thank you.